Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started with the webinar now. Thank you everyone who's arrived so far. We're extremely excited to introduce Mozenda 7, which is in beta right now. But it comes with a whole suite of new features that are going to really enhance your ability to use Mozenda to extract data, to automate processes. So we're really excited. It's probably one of the biggest updates we've had in quite a while. So let me go ahead and give you a brief overview of what we'll be covering today, and then we'll jump straight into it. So Mozenda 7 comes with several really great new features. Probably one of the most prominent ones is that the harvesting and the agent builder and in the web console can now be run with Chromium. This is a feature that we know many of our clients have been looking forward to for years now. We're really excited to be announcing its release today. So for those of you who aren't aware, we previously ran on a IE-based engine to do all of our web scraping. So we were dependent on whatever is compatible with Internet Explorer. Now we are using Chromium, which is the same engine that Google Chrome is run on, which is a lot more robust and can handle quite a bit more different types of websites, and it's generally much faster as well. You take a moment and you think about it, and you realize that how many people that we know today are still using Internet Explorer as their most common browser, right, or even at all. And you'll know that right away that most people are moving on to Chrome or Firefox or other browsers that are a little bit more up to date. And so as Internet Explorer has become more and more obsolete, we ran into that problem where there were certain websites that even Mozenda wasn't compatible with because of those restraints that came with using an IE engine. But with Chromium, we are able to overcome each of those issues. So there are certain websites that don't work at all in Internet Explorer that will now work in the Chromium Agent Builder and in the web console as well. There are some websites, this is the hardest or the most frustrating one, that look like they work, but as you start to try to actually get data, that things fail, and that can make it difficult as well. Along with it, Chromium is just faster. We found some agents can get up to 7 times faster, but usually you'll see at least twice as fast on pretty much any agent that you build. And we'll show a little bit of a demo on that in the webinar today to get a feel for how that looks. In addition to upgrading to Chromium, well, not in addition to, but as a result of upgrading to the Chromium engine, we are now 98% compatible with JavaScript specifications as defined by the ECMAScript standard. So we'll look into that a little bit as well. Once again, I'm just going to give you a brief overview right now, and we'll dig into what each of these things mean a little bit later on. We also have a fully upgraded JavaScript editor with several new features that we're going to demonstrate today that'll really enhance how you can use the run JavaScript action for those of you that are using it, and how you can start using it for those who haven't yet. And then another very exciting addition is the Chromium Dev Tools, which we'll jump into as well. Those are now a window within the Agent Builder. So just to be clear, this is Mozenda 7. It's not Mozenda Agent Builder 7. Now the Agent Builder is revamped because we're using Chromium, but one of the best aspects of this is that it's Mozenda-wide upgrade. And so even when you will build the agents on the Chromium engine now, if you're using the new Agent Builder, but when you save them to your account, they will also run when ran on the web console on our harvesters. They will also run on a Chromium engine, which will mean better performance, more reliable, quicker when ran through the web console. So I do want to show you, let's go ahead and close out of our title slide here. And I'm going to take you over to one of the pages where you can find more information. If you haven't found it yet, most of you, if you've signed up for the webinar, you've probably already seen this page, but just in case, if you go to mozenda.com/help and you go to this Mozenda 7 beta icon, you'll be able to see all of the help articles that we've published to go along with the new builder and with the new dynamic within Mozenda. So before you get started, in the webinar today, we'll cover almost all of these. But before you really get started using it, I'd recommend reading through each of these. It probably won't take you more than 10 minutes, but it'll really give you a head start with using the new technology. Now, I just want to remind you that we are in beta. And what beta means, right, is that it is still in development to some extent. Now, that being said, we feel extremely confident with it. We've gone through a couple rounds of closed beta where we've had internally and externally users use the new technology, and we feel very confident in its capabilities, and we're excited to hear from you guys. With that though, because it is in beta, we just request that as you come across potential issues that you may see as you're using the builder, please let our support team know or your customer success manager know as soon as possible, because we want to address those issues to make sure that the new agent builder meets all its expectations and can really just take your agent building to a new level. So we'd appreciate some feedback on that as you come across those types of issues. So with that, we're going to go ahead and start demonstrating what's new and what you can do with the new builder. So first thing we're going to do, I've built out an agent, a very simple one, and this is in the Internet Explorer engine-based agent builder still. So I'm going to show you really quick just so that we can get a feel. This agent is set to capture, I've refined the list to only capture 5 items, but it's clicking into each one. So we're just going to let it run through because I want to get a feel for how long this test takes. So just keep an eye on that. We finally just got one. Took about 12 seconds to get that first one. So we're going to let it go through these 5. Let that go through. And then we'll switch over to the Chrome builder and see if we can get much improvement now. So this one took about 34 seconds, which is actually quicker than I usually see on the IE builder. Usually we see closer to about a minute. So we might not see as big of an enhancement this time, but let's go ahead and switch over to our Chromium builder. So to do that, you go up here to the top left of your agent builder and you choose File, Settings, Beta Browser, and click Save. Now it's going to pop up with a dialog box indicating that you do need to restart the agent builder for the changes to take effect. So we're going to choose Restart Now. If you have an agent open already in the agent builder, it will just reopen that agent, but as a Chrome version. So we'll see it's the same agent. It does say not saved though now, because obviously we've made a pretty significant change to it. We've switched it over to the Chromium builder. So when we save it, or when we're done with it today, we are going to want to save it so that we can save it so that it will run on the Chromium agent builder when ran in the web console. Sorry, the Chromium harvesters. So let's go ahead and test this agent and see what our time improvement is. So keep in mind, this is without any request blocking. So once we even threw in request blocking, we could probably even see quicker results. But if you remember, that first one took about 12 seconds to get that first item. We're down to 6 right away. 4 items, 5 items. All right, there we go. So check that out. We dropped it down to just 16 seconds to get these 5 items from the 34 seconds that we saw before. And this is a really simple agent. So you can imagine what that increase in speed would look like for a more complicated agent. So this is just a brief demo of that. We were able to increase it by, it's twice as fast running on the Chromium, exact same agent. So practice or take a look at that with some of your agents. Just have a good time opening them into the agent builder in IE and then converting them to Chrome, and you'll be able to see that it will pretty much enhance every agent that you look at that you're working with. So with that, let's go ahead and show you real quick to switch back to IE. You can go back into settings and uncheck the beta browser and click save. Now, because we feel so confident about the new Chromium agent builder, we don't really anticipate that you'll ever need to go back to the IE based agent builder. So if there is a reason to do it, we'd love any feedback that you can provide. So if you do try to switch from Chromium back to IE, you will see this dialog box. You can't actually do anything until you put a message in. So we're just going to ask that you type something like testing speed differences or something like that, or maybe there really was something that wasn't working in Chromium and you wanted to try it in IE. If you wouldn't mind just sending us a quick message. I'm not actually going to switch over, so we're just going to leave it in the beta browser mode for now. So I'm going to save the agent really quick because I want to show you what it looks like in the web console, because there is kind of a difference. So I'm going to change the name to Chromium. Actually, let's cancel that. Let's save as, because we don't want to save over our other agent. And we'll call this one XT Outfitters Chromium. Okay, so let's jump into the web console really quick now. So there's a few things I want to show you, because as I mentioned, even though the agent builders you'll be able to see, actually visually see the biggest changes with Mozenda 7. The web console is where it ends up really mattering, right? Is making sure that it is running on the Chromium technology when ran on our harvesters. So if you are in your agents list, there's a new configuration icon in the config field that will indicate what browser technology will be used. So you can see right here in this config field, if we hover over the new agent we just made, it will show that it uses Chromium, and the old agent that we had at the beginning will use Internet Explorer. Now this is completely based on what the agent builder version we're using when we save the agent. So because we're in Chromium now, when we saved XT Outfitters Chromium, it's saved as a Chromium agent. So in addition to that, other thing to keep in mind is if we were to open this IE agent right now in the agent builder, because the agent builder is currently in the beta browser mode, it would still open in Chromium. And so, for example, if you have a Chromium, here's where you start running into issues that you want to be careful with. If you open a Chromium agent in the IE agent builder and then save it, it will overwrite it and it will no longer run on Chromium, it will run on Internet Explorer. So just make sure that when you save the agent that you are saving it inside the version of the builder that you want it to run on when ran on the web console. You can also from each agent dashboard, so if we click into an agent and head to the agent dashboard, you'll be able to see up here at the top that same configuration icon indicating what browser technology will be used when it runs on our harvesters. Okay, so we're gonna jump in and go to a few new things that have been introduced into the agent builder itself. These are exclusively agent builder upgrades. So first thing we're gonna do is introduce what is called the DevTools window. So let's go ahead and open that up right down here. So if you don't have it down in your taskbar down here, you can right click on any of the ones that are available and open up the DevTools window, or you can go to File, Windows, and make sure that you have the DevTools checkbox enabled. So the DevTools are a suite of tools that come along with the Chromium browser. Some of you may have been familiar with it in the past. For example, if we come back into, let's go to mozenda.com/help, and I'm going to hit F12. These are tools native to the Chromium engine that give you greater insight into the HTML document, into the resources that are being used. So there's a whole bunch of panels up here that allow you to give greater insight into really just what's going on the website. And we've now fully integrated that into the agent builder. So this is replacing, if you remember, we used to have a DOM window. This is replacing that because it's a significant upgrade to what the DOM could do. So let's go ahead and take a few looks at what the DevTools can do. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these panels up here. You'll notice that you can cycle through several panels up here at the top. The most common ones that you will probably use, most common will be elements, potentially network. Sources would be rare, but if you know what you're doing in the DevTools, then this is going to be really useful for you. And the console will also be very useful as well. Performance, memory, application security, and audits. You probably won't find yourself using those panels as much, but they are available because they are part of the Chromium engine. And so if you can find a use case that you might need a little bit more visibility than what the other panels provide, they are accessible here and are fully functional as they would be inside of a Chrome web browser. So let's start with the Elements panel. So one of the greatest new features that we have is the ability to come up here anywhere on the page. You'll notice, first of all, as we hover over it down here in the Elements panel, everything on the page is stored somewhere in this HTML, which is accessed in the Elements panel. And as we hover over it inside of the DevTools Elements panel, you'll notice that it will highlight what section of the web page this part of the HTML is associated to. Additionally, you can come over to any item on the page and right-click, choose Inspect, and it will immediately take you to that item within the HTML. So this can be incredibly useful when you're trying to build your own Xpath or just figure out what's going on the website. There is also a setting that you can enable inside the Windows setting file. Right here, it's called Autocomplete navigation. So that changes it so that instead of having to inspect, you can just hover over any item and it will take you to it inside of the HTML. I prefer using inspect because that's how what a regular browser uses. So I'm just going to go back and re-enable or disable the Autocomplete navigation and require that we inspect in order to get the information that we want. So let's, first of all, this agent right here, it's capturing price. Let's go ahead and inspect the price. We have an Xpath that was auto-generated by Mozenda when I created the capture action. So one great thing about the DevTools is you can come straight to the action, right-click it, go to copy Xpath, and it will copy generally an even better Xpath than what was automatically created previously. So it tries to narrow it down further. It looks for specific ID, which is usually very unique on a website. So this is great for when you're practicing Xpath. Even better is the ability to write your own Xpath in there. So let's go ahead and press Control F. So we are in the Elements panel. I'm pressing Control F, and you'll notice that a little input text box appears down here that lets you search by string, selector, or Xpath. So we're going to take this Xpath that we just created, right, and go back to our DevTools Elements panel and search for it. And you'll see it'll find the information that we are looking for. Now, as always, we like to write our own Xpath when possible, right? So you can also test Xpath within here before actually storing it inside of capture actions Xpath. So for example, let's get rid of this Xpath that we copied. Let's take a look. We want to capture this price right here. And it shows us right here, there's a class, a span with a class equal to price without tax. That's a pretty good identifier. So let's go ahead and search for a span with that class. And you'll notice that it actually finds 6. And if you press enter, it'll just cycle you through the 6. So it looks like the other 5 are from this section down here, marked related products. So we do want to specify that we specifically want the price associated with only with the item that we're currently looking at, the main item. So we're going to want to expand our Xpath a little bit. Now, usually I'd probably give a little bit more insight into this, but we're just going to move a little bit more quickly since we want to move on to the Chromium-based aspect of this upgrades. So here we've got an Xpath that finds just the price that we want. It's a really solid Xpath based on product view details, based on a price without tax. So it's a pretty consistent Xpath. So we could come over here and replace that to capture the data that we want. All right, so there's also, for those of you, once again, who are a little bit more advanced users or who know a little bit about web development, many items, for example, this click item, have events associated with them, generally called event listeners. Within the DevTools, there is a window straight over here. It'll show you what CSS styles are being applied to make it, look pretty, style it up. A few other tabs as well. The event listeners tab will show you all the events that are associated with the item you're looking at. So we're looking at, let's go ahead and, for example, inspect one of these links here. So we're inspecting this link, and we see that all these different event listeners associated with it. If you go to the properties of a click item, there is an element events tab. And this has been available for a while, but not very many of our clients know quite how to use it fully. But with the new DevTools, it'll make a little bit more sense. So essentially, if something's going on that you don't want to happen, you're hovering over something and it's triggering some event in JavaScript that you don't want, you could come try to analyze what's going on. For example, let's say on mouse over, let's say mouse leave. Oops. This JavaScript is happening, and if you click it, it will take you to the sources panel, and it will show you exactly where that JavaScript is happening, mouse leave right there. And let's say you deduce that you don't want that to happen, you don't want that JavaScript to ever be executed, you can come in and remove the on mouse leave event listener, and it would disable that action from triggering that event. Also, if you're advanced with JavaScript and with web development, you can set breakpoints in here that can help you analyze what might be going wrong with certain websites as you're building agents. So I won't go too deep into that. I know that's a whole nother realm in and of itself, so we won't step any further into that. The elements panel is probably where you'll spend most of your time when you're using the DevTools. Another really key resource is the network tab. So if you'll notice, this looks quite similar to our navigation request window. Let me pull that over real quick. So our navigation request window is where we can analyze the request coming through and set up request blocking to block out the unnecessary fluff requests, essentially. Inside the DevTools network tab, we're able to see even more information. For example, we can go straight to one of the requests that happened. This is the first request that happened. You can take a look at what headers were involved. You can get a preview of what the page is going to look like. This is the page that we loaded up, the response, cookies, timing. So it gives you a lot more insight into what's really going on with each of the requests. So this is merely for research purposes, essentially. If you actually want to start blocking requests, you will need to do that through the navigation request window. Alrighty, so like I said, there's several other panels. We won't cover any other ones except for the console. The console has a few different functionality, has several different types of functionality. One of the key things it does, and the website in and of itself, is basically display messages that are happening. Either maybe there was an error on the web page, or just one of the actions on the page tells it to write to the console. So it's kind of like a messaging location for the website to display information to. But it's also a great place where you can practice JavaScript. So I'm really excited for this. We don't have, well, we have customers who want this type of functionality, but potentially haven't quite been enabled to use the run JavaScript feature as fully as they've wanted to. So I'm going to give a brief demo on that, because now it's so much easier to test JavaScript within the agent builder itself that the run JavaScript action will probably be much easier to use as well. So we're going to write some Xpath really quick. Sorry, not some Xpath, some JavaScript. So I'm just going to set a price equal to 100. Now, when we create a run JavaScript action, I'm going to show you how we can actually use the price that's being captured. Because let's say we want to capture the price, but then find what double the price would be for whatever reason. So let's capture price. So we've got a price in there. And we're going to say var double price equals price times 2. So now we have a new variable called double price. And so what we want to do now is inject that value into the website so that we can capture it again as part of our data. So what we're going to do is create a new element on the web page, which you just do with this syntax here. So we're going to create a new span element. And we're going to specify that the new element inner text equals double price. And we're also going to specify that the new element dot ID, so that we can find it, is equal to result. Oops, I did type one thing wrong. There we go. And then we actually want to inject that into the document. So we're going to say document.body dot append new element. So that's actually pushing it onto the page. So if we scroll to the very bottom, you're going to see this new injection into the page, which is double our price. Remember, our price was 100. We've doubled it and injected that into the page. We can now come down here, create a capture action called double price, and save that. And we'll see, as we look at the elements tab, we'll go inspect it. It's nested in there with that ID that we gave. So we can write an even more specific XPath by saying look for a span with an ID equal to result. You'll want to use, if you do use a method like this, you'll want to use an ID that will definitely be unique to the page. So we can go into XPath, put in our personal XPath, and we can see that we're able to successfully capture double that price that we specified. Now, of course, this is all for testing purposes right now. So it's important to note that while this is working great right now and we're capturing it, as soon as we test it, we don't have any run JavaScript action in the agent yet, so it won't be able to successfully replicate what we've done, which is why it's hitting an error now. So what we're going to do now is move away from the console now that we've performed our testing, and we're going to move into the Run JavaScript editor in order to create an action that we want, and then dynamically create that price, double price for each item. So we're going to go to Add Action, Run JavaScript, and it opened up another window. Let me pull that over. There we go. So this is one of the other great new features of Mozenda 7 is an upgraded JavaScript editor. If you remember, if you've used it in the past, the prior versions of the JavaScript editor were just a blank text box, which wasn't very easy to work with. I'm going to switch it over. First of all, I'm just right-clicking inside the main window of the JavaScript editor. I'm going to switch to a dark theme, a little bit easier to work with. Oh, you also notice we hit a breakpoint in here. If you remember inside the Sources tab, I had set this breakpoint, and so it just executed. I'm going to go ahead and remove that breakpoint. I'm going to go ahead and I'll save our JavaScript action, remove that breakpoint. We'll just test the agent again just to get it back into a good state. So the new JavaScript editor comes with a whole bunch of great new features. Let's go ahead and take a look at a few of them. One of the best ones, in my opinion, is the autocomplete functionality. So we're going to rewrite our XPath. We're going to use var price equals. You'll notice as I start typing, it gives me what it thinks I might be typing, like standard JavaScript values. And we're going to actually pass in our price now. So there is a way of actually passing in variables into a JavaScript action within Mozenda, and it's done just like this. It's always within quotes. And then within percentage signs, you put the field name that you want. So we're passing in that price value. Now, specifically, we want it to parse it as a float, meaning we want it to have decimal points. So we're going to say parse float and see how it's auto completing what I want. So I'm just going to hit tab, and it's going to put that value that it anticipates I'm trying to use. So then remember, we want to get a double price equals. I start typing price, and it realizes that we have a variable called price times 2. And let's say that we want also to create our new element, right? So we'll say var new element equals document, and knows what I'm trying to do. I'll hit tab, document.create. And see how here it gives me a few options. I could keep typing to get to E, or I can just use the arrow keys to get down to create element and choose create element. And we're going to specify it as a span. And then we also want to say new element, and it recognizes that we have a variable called that. So we'll say new element, hit tab, dot inner text equals, and here we're going to make a slight change as well. Once again, today's demo isn't to demonstrate JavaScript or to teach JavaScript, so I'm just going to kind of breeze through it. But essentially, we're going to take that value that we got, and because it's a price, we want it to specifically always have 2 decimal places, which is what this is doing. So then we also want new element.id equals result. And then the last thing that we want to do is come in here and choose document.body. And once again, all this is just being projected to me, all these potential ends to what I'm typing based on standard JavaScript, what it recommends that we, or what it thinks we might be trying to type. So we're going to choose a pen, and then we're going to add in our new element, and there we go. So now our JavaScript, let's go ahead and test it. As we execute it, it's still finding it down there. It's not quite capturing it yet. Let's see if we can figure out why. There we go. We just had to let it refresh. So now it's finding that double price now that we've used our JavaScript. So let's go ahead and test it and make sure that it works in testing. So just to recap, essentially what our JavaScript is doing is it's reading in this price variable, converting it into a decimal number, doubling it, injecting it back into the page, and then we're capturing that price now that it's available. Take a look at our testing results. We'll see that it is successfully finding double the price using that run JavaScript action. So the new JavaScript editor is much more helpful. It's much more easy to write JavaScript within it rather than having to test it all externally and then just paste it in. Additionally, it comes with a pretty print feature as well. So let's say you're having a hard time getting good formatting in there. maybe you don't put spaces between these equal signs, and then you come along, you can press this pretty print button down here at the bottom that will automatically format it to proper JavaScript styling syntax. So that's another feature of the new JavaScript editor. There's also several other features. We won't have time to go through all of them, but you can come down here to the new element. You can say go to definition, and it will take you, if you have a lot of JavaScript, it will take you exactly to where it was created in the page. Several other features in here as well. We can find all references, and it will tell us everywhere it says new element. There's also a command palette. You can also access it just by pressing F1. That has quite a few other very common JavaScript uses, just needs that you might need to include while you're writing your JavaScript. So quite a few new functionalities to the JavaScript editor. We're hoping it really opens your eyes to what you can do with it, because there's once you have access to a scripting language like JavaScript, it's kind of unlimited what you can do with your data. You can multiply it, you can merge fields, you can do all sorts of different things that you might not be able to do with standard capture or click item actions. Alrighty, so with that, we're kind of coming close to the end on what we wanted to cover in terms of new functionality. We can feel pretty confident that our run JavaScript action is working because we're capturing these values now. So what I want to show you next that will also help understand what one of the big differences is with the new technology is something called an ECMAScript 6 compatibility table. So ECMAScript 6 is essentially a scripting standard that JavaScript complies with. So when we say something is compatible with ECMAScript 6, we're essentially saying it is compatible with JavaScript. So currently I am in a Chrome browser here, which is why we're seeing 98% compatibility. So current browser has 98% compatibility with all JavaScript that is run, which is crazy. It's as close to 100 as you can get. Now there will be a few very obscure things that probably almost no web developer will actually use inside their website because they're trying to design their websites to work with popular browsers like Chrome. So with 98% functionality, you can be pretty confident that any JavaScript that you write in here inside a JavaScript editor will work, because we're using a very up-to-date browser technology now. As opposed to, and this is where it gets really interesting, I'm going to pull over Internet Explorer. So this is an Internet Explorer browser, and you can see that this browser only has 11% compatibility. So with this change to Chromium, not only have we made it faster, cleaner, easier to use, included the DevTools, updated the run JavaScript action, but all JavaScript executed within an agent has jumped from being 11% compatible to 98% compatible now, which is a huge increase. And it starts to make sense to those of you who may not have been familiar with these statistics before. It makes a lot more sense why there were a few websites that you might have hit that didn't quite work in the Internet Explorer browser, and why they will now work in Chromium. For example, to kind of finish up here, I do want to show you one more website. Let me pull it up for you. Let's go into the agent builder, and we'll click File, New. Yeah, let's go ahead and save our changes so that our JavaScript works when we run it inside the web console. And we'll save that agent. Okay, so now we're going to open a new agent. You can see right away one of the other changes that we're really excited about is a change to the builder welcome page. So when you are using the Chromium agent builder, you'll see a much more pleasing to the eye aesthetics to our home page. It looks a little bit more like a Chrome type browser. So this is the builder welcome page. I'm sure you're all familiar with it in the IE version, but this is how it will look when you are using the Chromium agent builder. So we're going to go to a website really quick, and you're going to see that it loads up fairly quickly, and it passes, and it includes all of these results. Now, this is kind of an older website. It's compatible with Chrome though, and so all these results show up. If we switch back over to the old browser, Leave our message in here. We'll restart that. Remember, we're switching now from 98% compatibility to 11% compatibility. Now, this is not only the JavaScript that you create inside a run JavaScript action, but also any JavaScript that the page itself is trying to use. Which is why, as we try to load this page now, we'll see it acts like it loaded up, but you'll see that it never gets past this loading data, ... And that's because the JavaScript that's trying to be implemented on this page is more advanced than what Internet Explorer can handle. So this is one example. This is one of those kind of more frustrating ones where it almost looks like it's going to work, but it just doesn't quite get across the finish line. We have had over the years so many different websites that we've come across that have hit this exact same issue, where it looks like it should work, but because of limitations based on Internet Explorer engine, browser engine technology, there's only so far we can get, and we start to hit issues like this. With Chromium, as we already saw, I'll switch it back while we're finishing up here. These are issues that are going to go out the window. We can proudly preach now that the new technology will be compatible with almost every website out there. The JavaScript editor allows you to even enhance what you're doing with those websites. DevTools gives you even more insight into what's going on. So Mozenda 7 really is, as I mentioned at the beginning, probably one of the biggest upgrades that we've had. I want to mention once more, we are still in beta, and so there might still be a few kinks that you might see. We do feel very confident about it, but we would appreciate any feedback you can give as you start using it. The beta browser is now available to everybody. The new beta agent builder, the new technology running on the web console as well. We'd invite you all to switch over, give it a shot. Once again, all your agents that you currently have will still be running on Internet Explorer. You will need to open them in the agent builder, test them out, and then save them in order for them to work. And generally, you will always want to test them in the agent builder before switching. There are a few minor differences between Internet Explorer and Chromium that may cause agents that work in Internet Explorer to, at first, fail in Chrome. But generally, just refining the agent and maybe fixing up the Xpaths by using a right-clicking and saying reassign current location and reassigning them. Usually that will resolve any issues that you might see. So be cautious, obviously, as you move forward, but at the same time, we hope that you jump in full force and are as excited as we are to convert as many of your agents and build all your new agents on the new technology. With that, we're coming right down to the end here. If you have any questions, send them in. Let me check to see if we have any that have been sent in already, just so I can answer them before we jump off. Otherwise, send in some questions and we can answer them after the webinar. Yeah, so we did have a question. Somebody asked if you can switch back and forth between the beta and production versions if you keep track of which version you used when you built the agent. Yeah, so if you open up an agent inside one of the agent builders, you can switch back and forth between IE and the Chromium agent builder as many times as you want. Just know that when you save the agent, it will overwrite whatever was in the web console with whatever new browser technology you're using. We had another question about Xpath syntax. So because we do have a little bit more time than we might have anticipated, I will cover this real briefly. Most of the Xpath will be exactly the same between Internet Explorer and Chromium. There's a slight difference, which is that while Internet Explorer is not case sensitive, Chromium is in its Xpath. So for example, if we were writing an Xpath down here for this value right here, here's our Xpath to write to capture this entire div. Let's say the value in here, oops. Let's say the value in here was actually with a capital V. You'll notice that the Xpath no longer works because we're looking for a lowercase b. When you use Xpath on the IE engine, that wouldn't matter. It would basically remove all case sensitivity and it would find any of these values regardless of whether or not it's uppercase or lowercase. So that's why I say when you do switch from Chrome over to from IE over to Chrome, this is one of the things you'll want to look for because you might find actions that are no longer working, but in reality, it's as simple as just changing the case sensitivity on here. So you just need to go find that same action and see if there was any slight difference, for example, a capital B, and then you could come in here and modify the XPath. Most of the time people will use lowercase anyway though, so you should be fine for the most part, but keep an eye out for that as you are switching back and forth, just to be sure that we're seeing exactly what we want. Let me see if there's any more questions I can answer quickly before we hop off. We had another question. A few people said they had issues with JavaScript on previous agents working in the old builder. Let me read that. Hold on. Okay, yeah. So one person was saying that they have some JavaScript that actually was working in prior agents, but doesn't work in the beta builder. Yeah, and so my recommendation on that is to jump into the console and put your JavaScript in here that you're trying to use, because if you do try to use like JavaScript that's not real or that isn't going to work, it will fail inside the console tab as well. So if it's not working the way you'd expect, trial it out inside the DevTools console panel, and then you can get a feel for what might be going wrong, because it will generally pop up with an error message if it's not working or if it's not going to do what's expected. And yeah, with that, I think we're going to probably finish up here. If you have any additional questions, sorry if I didn't get to all of them. If you have any additional questions, please send them in. Email us at training@mozenda.com or support@mozenda.com, or email them directly to your customer success manager if you're an enterprise client. We're really excited to get started. If you want to watch this webinar again, we're going to post it up on the help page, mozenda.com/help. Take a look at it there. It should be up before too long, hopefully within the next week or so. But we're really grateful to everybody who showed up for the training today. We're really excited to hear how your experience is with Mozenda 7 beta. So we'll keep in touch and let us know if you have any other suggestions about the new builder or any questions about how it works. Alrighty, thanks. Take care. Have a great day. Bye.